One second.
That-
You moved and seconded, Jeff Winholtz to be the vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Okay, public comment. This is a time when the public has a chance to make comments on the county business to the commission. And what I'll do is I'll ask if there's anybody in the room and then anybody on Zoom. If there is, I'll explain the rules. If there isn't anybody that wants to comment, I won't. So, is there anybody in the room that wants to make a public comment? Well, there's somebody online. Okay, we have somebody on Zoom, so I'll go ahead and tell you. The rules of the public comment are, you have 3 minutes. It's not a give and take between the commission. It's just a chance for you to talk to or tell the commission what's on your mind, what your thoughts are. And we ask that you keep it civil and not a good person. So we'll start with the first public comment, Aaron Baumquist. Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioners, can you hear me?
Oh, just 1 second, Aaron.
Go ahead.
Turn up the our speaker. Give us a sound check, Aaron.
Am I loud enough here?
Yes.
Okay. I have 3 items, commissioners. I'm going to start from the bottom. Whoever's taking notes, Matt. The first one is going to be under correspondence. And I don't know where commissioners are on that. Sent a letter to correspondence from Oregon to the Board of Commissioners, the CDA, and the Port of Morrow. Particularly here, there's 5 items requesting action. I do want to say that I know that the CDA and all that fund, and Commissioner Winholtz could speak to that, is in flux. But I would strongly need the Board of Commissioners to go on record and to make some action and movement forward. Know that it's not going to happen overnight, but we need to do something. So please read that. If it needs to come back for some action and you want to do some follow-up, I am available. Second one item, because I want to be true to my time here, is under 6C. I just wanted on record, you guys are going to be looking at, as commissioners, the Morrow County zoning ordinance. I do support that it needs to be updated. I do have some caveat, just as an administrator, and knowing this stuff, it's because it's land use and zoning, it's got to go to the state and et cetera, et cetera. But there needs to be tracked with meetings better and more efficient and thorough and consistent review for structure and syntax, so that staff do their good homework before it gets to elected officials or even get to the state. This just makes it look like we don't always have our act together. So I'm hoping and trusting. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because that's not my purview, but I do that internally here with the city of Oregon and other boards I sit on, make sure our homework and paperwork and documentation is thoroughly done. The last item that I have is under is item 6A, and I want to go on record strongly. You've heard me before say the commissioners voted. Now we're going to try to change our mind because we didn't like what we have, and from the public, I have personal opinion to that. I've made reference to the J6. I will tell you this: we had a change of leadership on the national level on January 6th, but 4 years ago it was chaotic, and you are going down the same road just because certain people want things to change. The north is on the growth is on the north end, and I still stand firm to support that. Staff has done due diligence and the architects to get the circuit court in Boardman with the justice court. Be efficient, not just because we have our pet peeves. Make a decision, and I know that we have a new commissioner has came on board. Gus, Commissioner Peterson, don't cave. We got to stand firm. It's not about whatever jurisdiction I live in. This is for all of Morrow County, not Boardman specific, okay, not Oregon, or not Hefner. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Next up is Karen Karen, good, good.
Karen, you're unmuted.
Still muted.
Oh. You're unmuted now, Karen. Yeah. Well. Try speaking, Karen. We have you unmuted.
Yeah, still can't hear. Yeah.
Karen, we can't hear you. We show you as muted, Karen, if you can hear us.
Thinks you can.
No, that's not working.
No.
Maybe you should call one of our phones. We've done that before. Anybody volunteer? Did she say she could hear us?
I think I saw her head nod when Matt mentioned. Karen, can you nod if you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yep, so she can hear us.
Whose phone? Matt, did she call your phone?
Yeah.
We have Matt's phone number. Karen.
Aaron's.
Yeah, Aaron can hear too. I think he's just saying he can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's okay. It's just somehow the audio on the mic for Karen's isn't working or it's connected. He does show on muted on her. So.
For the others.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I don't have Karen's on the work.
You have your phone there, by Karen?
Hey, Karen, we're gonna try to use you over the phone, okay? I'm gonna put you on speaker. Karen, go ahead.
Oh, we're gonna she'd have to mute that solder.
Yes.
That I am coming today, that you are going to bring us the building things. In my recording. This, I heard that. Reasons why this has been reconsidered and time wasted, and just seems to me like it should not be on their agenda. The signal made and just move forward. And I'm sorry, you know, it's, you know, I'm like, it said that you wouldn't let me use, I don't know how that works. Anyway. BMCC stuff, I computer classes, by the way. Anyway.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Thank you. Is there any other comment? Anybody not? Justin, any hands up?
Nope, you're good.
If not, I'll close the public comment section. We'll consideration adoption of agenda. This is a new thing we put on on the agenda. And I'm gonna let Matt explain the purpose of it.
So with the adoption of, our rules of process, one of the things that, was put in for the rules of process is allowing any of the commissioners and, the county administrator to place items on the agenda. One of the options with this is, that allows the governing board, equal access to the agenda. And then at the start of each meeting, what we will do is adopt the agenda to solidify that this is the business of the commission and not just of the county administrator or any one commissioner. And so going forward, we'll have this, we'll post more or less the proposed agenda. And then at the first meeting, we will have a consideration to adopt the agenda as stated. Generally, we will not have any additions to the agenda that on this, but we will mainly focus on if there's something that's not, ready to be determined, or there, the commissioners feel like it's not quite ripe enough of an issue to consider. In today's, we'll have just a motion to do this. This is on the agenda overall, and we're going to practice it by, we had originally put a placeholder for the executive session, and before we make a motion, I would ask the commission to strike the executive session items 10, 11, and 12 from this, as though are not needed at this time as we originally thought.
Okay, what are motions?
So I would move to adopt the agenda, moving items 10, 11, and 12.
I would ask on the consent agenda, I would like something moved out of that. Would this be the time?
We'll do that next.
Do that next?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. All right. In that case, I second.
Okay, then moved in second to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, consent agenda, and then, Gus, do you know how this works on the consent agenda?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we just,
Well, if you want to
Yeah.
pull something.
I
out,
would like to
discuss.
pull E just to discuss it. I don't anticipate, just so we can talk about it if you guys wanted to change things up, and if not, great, but I want to
We,
pull it out.
yeah, we do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Other commissioners want to too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I will move for approval of the consent agenda, removing item E for discussion.
I second that.
Move a second to accept the consent agenda without item E. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Okay, item E. Committee assignments. My name's on there, so I basically took what was Roy's committees and so forth. And just assigned them to Gus, so, but if people want to talk about it and make some more straight or something, we're open to that, so. You wanna go first, Jeff?
So nothing really related to that, but I think that this maybe would be the time to discuss about the representatives for the Threads boards. When you and I first came on, we didn't have the third commissioner, so we selected different people as alternates. So I guess I will make the motion that for CREZ 2, we will select Commissioner Gus Peterson as the alternate. You and I continue as the representatives there, and to appoint Commissioner Gus Peterson to CREZ 3 as the board member replacing Roy. And then as our alternate for CREZ 3, I would propose that we appoint Matt Jensen as the
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I would second that.
Okay, then move to second, Ed. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
and that's all I had.
Okay, Gus, you got something?
I'm perfectly happy with the committee assignments. I will say if either of you feel passionate about the Wolf Depredation Committee, I am not 100% certain that I would be as neutral person on that committee as perhaps I'm supposed to be. But if you guys are not chomping at the bit, then I will do my best to keep my personal opinions on that personal and to be as neutral as judge as I can be.
Accepted.
And I don't know how that committee works, Gus, but I kind of suspect that, you know, you're kind of as there as our representative and you're not as the voting member of it.
Okay,
That's how, you know, some of the other things, like, you know, I'm on the loop committee.
Mhm.
And I don't view my role as there as being as a voting member, but it's as the board's representative there.
Well, on this particular one, you are a voting member. Because I am the representative.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I didn't know how that one worked.
Yeah, no, and what you do on there, in case people don't know this, is the state generally allocates money for wolf mitigation. We have more kills now in Morrow County. I haven't been on the committee for a while because Roy was more familiar with the Blue Mountains and the wildlife and everything. So I asked him to be, took that, but, you know, the ranchers turn in, claims if there's a wolf kill of, cattle. And also there's claims for mitigation, different things to try to keep wolves away from their cows and so forth. So basically, that's what it is. You know, you examine the applications. that come in. Yeah,
yes or nay.
yeah, and then you,
Okay.
and a lot of it's making sure that they fill out all the application correctly and so forth, so.
Yeah, well, yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Chair Sykes, one thing, I noticed in the assignments, ICABO, looks like it's gone to Commissioner Peterson, and you're listed for WICFED. As the representative on that. I know I've been serving on that, or are you reassuming that one? I'm okay if you are. Just wanted clarification.
I always thought that the committee assignments were for the BOC,
Okay,
mainly, except for the one, but I would be happy to have you be the WIC vet.
okay, just wanted to
Let's
clarify.
do that,
So,
yeah. No, I want you, no, you're an elected board member.
Yes,
Yeah, no, and we kind of just did those as, you know, observers or, you know, I go to the meetings and look up. And, so I'll entertain a motion to make the WICFED representative Matt Johnson.
I'll second.
You second and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any other thing on the assignment? Anything?
I also don't have anything else. So. Do I make a motion?
I can't remember whether we made a motion to accept everything with the changes or, but yeah, go ahead.
Probably motion to approve the assignments with the changes as noted. I don't, if someone made a list of them, or I think Valerie's probably made a list of it.
And then did we get the one?
Yeah, that'll also include removing the WIC bed, right? And that's because that's already been assigned to.
Yeah.
Or Matt as a board member.
So we're done, we're good with the assignments.
But they make a motion to approve.
Oh, we need to vote.
Yeah.
I move to approve the 2025 committee assignments as discussed.
Second.
Then move to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, I guess that gets us through the consent agenda. Now we go on to our business items. 6A, reconsider new courthouse annex siting decision. That's August.
It's me. Okay. I appreciate the public comment that has been made regarding this, and I appreciate everyone that has reached out to me regarding this issue. Since the announcement of an additional courthouse space, this project has been plagued with twists and turns, and we have arrived at a juncture where I am afraid there is no decision that we can make that will not result in unhappiness from some folks, and I recognize that. I also wish to say that I will blame no one for being frustrated with me personally, as I believe that a reasonable case can be made for either location, and I do not hold that reasonable disagreement as a cause for anger or for me to hold it against anyone else. If you wish to hold it against me, I don't blame you. This all being said, I believe that the courthouse annex, the courthouse project should remain in Heppner. Heppner is the county seat. The impact will be greater for the city of Heppner than it would be for anywhere else. And the city has made clear how much it means to it. If we are going to be good partners with all of our communities, then that is something that I think that we really need to value. And finally, for my own part, I have heard from both sides regarding ORS 3.016, which states in the 6th Judicial District, the judges of the district shall hold court in Pendleton, Hermiston, Milton Freewater, and Hefner as required by caseload. I see that it can be interpreted multiple ways. However, to me, it seems to clearly indicate that court shall be held in Hefner, and I'm not willing to gamble a 30 million plus project on that understanding being wrong or subject to interpretation that may change at a future point in time. For these reasons, among others, I motion to repeal the November 6th, 2024 motion by the Board of Commissioners to locate the new courthouse annex in Boardman.
It's been moved, is there a second? I'll second this. Any further discussion?
Call for discussion, and I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'd like to hear from our partner in this building. I believe Judge Dan Hill is here as a representative of the state. The state is a partner in that building, so they will be funding a large or a good portion of the building. Good.
On the possibility that there was going to be some sort of discussion like this, I would actually prepare a statement. If just needs to pass that around.
Function might be in the chair.
I'm Daniel J. Hill. I'm the presiding judge for Umatilla and Morrow County, the 6th Judicial District. I'm appointed by the Chief Justice, the judicial branch. The Chief Justice is the head of the judicial branch, and pretty much what she says goes. I need to address what I did not put in here because I didn't contemplate that this would be an issue. Statute mentioned regarding location of the courthouse. The second portion of that statute says the Chief Justice appoints, designates the principal location of the courthouse. That controls over the other statute. The other statute is essentially an anomaly created to establish a Milton Freewater location, which was a transient location, and also the Hermiston court, especially when it was converted from a district court to a circuit court, provide for services in Hermiston and Milton Freewater, when in fact then the principal location, Umatilla County, was the Pendleton location. So it provided for multiple locations for the court to operate. There is no risk, zero risk, 100% zero risk, 1,000% zero risk. If you want to put it in Boardman, the Chief Justice will designate that as the principal location, at least currently. And it's also probably necessary for the purposes of the state bonds, even though we view these as co-existing buildings for the purposes of serving all of Morrow County. When this project started, the intent was to replace the historic and 4th oldest operating courthouse in the state. A full assessment of all the available properties provided by the city and the county resulted in the fairgrounds property as the county's preferred location. Community response to this location yielded only complaints about the location. Not one supporter ever came forward to voice support, in my knowledge, until this last event when we had issues about it not being able to go to the mill. In response, additional sites were assessed. Kinzua Mill site was examined at some cost and was determined to be unviable. At the VOC meeting, when the siting options were discussed, Fairgrounds and Boardman, the VOC voted, while certainly with some reluctance, for the Boardman site. With the understanding of that arrangement, I was able to secure keeping the historic courthouse operational while still having a court facility in Boardman, which would allow for service to both the north and the south ends of the county. As we have discussed at length, over 85% of all civil and over 95% of civil criminal cases arise from the north. Both court facilities and the contemplation of adding a justice court to the Boardman site provide significantly better access to justice for the residents of Morrow County as a whole. I represent the 6th Judicial District. I represent the Chief Justice, and I represent the people of both counties. And I will do in the best interest of what I think is and what I've heard are the best interests of the people. And that's not to disregard one part of the county to the other. Created the Hermiston Court. And that particular thing was to service the north end of Umatilla. And that was a county funded only building particularly. And there was a lot of consternation about having a courthouse in Hermiston and then adding a second courtroom in Hermiston. Pendleton is still the county seat, it is still the county courthouse. We're planning on hopefully building a new one. It is not replacing anything. Statistically, Morrow County's caseload reflects a need for about a 0.5 judge. So any discussion about getting a judge just for Morrow County does not work. We operate the Hettner Courthouse with one employee out of 3 allotted positions, a staffing level resulting in multiple failed recruitments. Luckily, our most recent recruitment is looking promising, and we are hopeful that we might fill another position in Hettner after years of continued vacancies. And I note here that when we hire somebody here, they usually leave. They get trained and they go someplace else. To allow for courthouse options, we rotate people, judges, and staff from Pendleton and Hermiston. Every day, and every day we have court, we rotate judges in, and we rotate staff in from Hermiston and Pendleton to operate this building. Honestly, the boardman selection was a welcome decision for which the Chief Justice fully supported, so much so that our long sought support for a 6th Judicial District Judge was finally agreed upon, contingent upon the courthouse location being in Boardman. The 6th judgeship would bring 4 staff positions, which would then staff the Boardman facility. Thus, while Morrow County does not have a statistical need for a full-time judge, the addition of a court facility in the north was critical to expanding access for both Morrow County and Umatilla County, given the proximity to Hermiston. This allowed us to argue for an additional or the legislative request for the new judge who would sit and observe both combinations of Boardman Hettner and Hermiston Pendleton. The logistics of Boardman siting are advantageous to the county and increased access to justice and increased employment opportunities for the 4 staff positions that come with a judge. So when you get a new judge, you get 4 staff. And so if we got a new judge, we come with enough staff to fill that courthouse at that point in time. These staff would be state funded and require no additional expense for Morrow County. County residents would gain 4 well-paid professional positions, which are hard to come by in rural areas, and again, at no added cost to the county. The shift back to Hettner will result in the district not getting a 6th judge and those positions. For Morrow, we will not be able to expand services, and we will continue the current level of services, which will not eliminate barriers to equal access to justice for all of Morrow County's residents. Economically, there is no financial advantage to having a new court facility in Hettner. Instead, there will be a direct loss of 4 permanently located staff in Boardman and about $250,000 in potential lost wages in the area. The old courthouse will no longer be operational and lose its status as the 4th oldest operating courthouse in the state. Continuing the course currently planned with the Boardman Court facility will allow support for a 6th judge and 4 staff to be forwarded to the legislature. This would keep the Hettner Courthouse open, maintaining both its historic status as well as its 4th oldest courthouse in operation in the state. A consolidation of the location of the Justice Court of the new facility would provide the county with more space in Irrigan for county operations and provide significantly greater access to justice to citizens of Morrow County. To give perspective, the court staff regularly has contact from North County Morrow residents requesting to file their documents in Hermiston. Due to venue, we send them to Hettner, which is met with disappointment and frustration from court users, as many find it inconvenient to drive to Hettner for even the simplest matters. For some, it could mean missing time from work, having to secure transportation to Hettner, and incurring expenses such as fuel and potentially even childcare. Further is a cautionary note about fairgrounds location. You may be aware of the current Umatilla County Fair and Rodeo up near the airport in Hermiston. Before that, it was on Orchard Avenue behind the high school and next to the post office. At some point in time, the post office wanted a new location from the Main Street location, and the fairgrounds gave up property to support that move. This put strains on the fairgrounds that were unforeseen when they ceded that space. The decrease in available ground was essentially the catalyst for the eventual fairgrounds move, because the increasing demand for space for the fair and rodeo could not be accommodated. Using the finite ground of the fairgrounds for courthouse removes that land from inventory for the purposes, current purposes, and is an irrevocable concession of that space. In conclusion, the courts support the Boardman location as this location that meets our strategic goal for access to justice. And services throughout the county, a growing county, and benefit users. It would add an economic advantage to the county tied directly to the creation of the additional state funded jobs to staff the Boardman facility. The historic courthouse would remain operational, helping its maintenance and preserve it as a focal point that should be of desire as the fourth oldest operating courthouse in the state. Subject to your questions, that is what I have this morning.
Question with Judge Hill?
I want to thank you for that. Just a reiteration of things that support to drive home was that Mel believes that the courthouse annex in Borland, it created 4 new jobs, county has there. We don't get 4 new jobs in the county. You know, I've heard you say before, and it's in your letter, that the Chief Justice, one of our strategic goals is access to justice for all the citizens. And by being it in Boardman accomplishes that. Even there, I don't think that we're being fair to partner and their desires should have happened. Yeah, thank you for the letter. Express the state's position on this.
My only comment is, I've been consistent from the beginning, when I took office, prior to when I took office. I promised everything I could do. Opinion hasn't changed. That's my only comment. Thank you, Judge, for yours. Okay. Any further comments?
Not for Judge.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So, so that's all I had for Judge Hill. I guess I will want to say, we've had multiple discussions about this, and we had a meeting specifically on where we should locate it here. And this room was filled, standing room only. And there was everybody that spoke, for the mayor, the manager, and one other person said that the fairgrounds was not an acceptable spot. They listed numerous reasons, one being the impact to the rodeo, the impact to the fair, people's concern about safety with the school located nearby, people's fears of having their children there. And I don't think that those people have changed their mind. So we've also had many meetings here. Stuart Dick got up and yelled at us that we weren't listening to the people and to not put it at the fairgrounds. So I don't know why we're taking it back by the fairgrounds. We had the Collins family circulate a petition. We had 86 people come and tell us not to put it at the fairgrounds. So
I would like to address that. Since that point, after the decision was made to put it in Boardman, we did in fact see many letters, including from the people who previously spoke about not having it at the fairgrounds, saying how they had changed their minds and they recognized that if this was the only viable location for Hebner, that it was important to them that it remain in Hebner. So yes, we have in fact received word, and it is written that there has been a change in opinion regarding that.
we've also had a citizen from Boardman that circulated a petition, and I forget, some signatures gathered that it should remain in Boardman. And I think that the important thing here to notice is that, as Judge Hill points out here, 85% of the civil and 95% of the criminal cases come from the north end of the county. So I think that it's our duty to represent the interests of the majority of the citizens of the county. And I don't know how by inconveniencing them when they could access it there instead of make them drive an hour to see those services. Because again, I view the county's role is to be a service provider. And one of the best ways to provide good customer service is to provide the services where the customers are. And when you have over 75% of the population, and that will continue to grow, located in the north end of the county, the services should be there. the 65% of the voters in our county are located in the two north zip codes. That means 65% of the potential jurors are located there. So to make them have to drive additional time, I don't think it's fair to the citizens of the county. Well, look out what's best for the citizens of the county, not my personal opinion. Look out what's best for them. And I believe it's our responsibility to represent those who aren't here that have jobs and other commitments that can't be here to speak. So I am good with this.
I think that was very well said, Joe.
Just unrelated, but I got an email saying that audio's cutting out every now and then, so specifically Commissioner Winholtz, if you could speak a little bit louder, that way everybody can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote, John?
I will say that when I ran, I also was very public and about how I believe that it should remain in Heppner. And as an elected official, I believe it is important that we keep our word. And that is something that matters as well. If we are going to be a body that people can trust, then we need to be consistent with what we say that we are going to do. And I am going to hold with what I said I was going to do. Sam.
Further discussion?
Just one comment to that is that I think it's more important to do what's right for the citizens.
Call for the vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. And we have a second motion.
I move to locate the courthouse project in Hettner at the fairground location using the plans that were previously made so that we can continue to move forward with slight adjustments as they need to be made.
Is that a part of your motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it. Okay, then move to second, any discussion?
I'll just reiterate what I had said before is that not favor of moving it to the fairgrounds. We've had any public comment as to not put it at the fairgrounds. So I listened to what they said and they said not at the fairgrounds. And so I'm not going to vote to put it at the fairgrounds.
Okay. That's not good discussion.
You said what I need to say, I think.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign,
Aye.
motion carried. Okay. Next item of business is 6B, Community Council's Division Quarter Report. Kimberly.
Chair. Step out of for a second. County.
Good morning.
Morning, along.
It's the first time I've officially met. They, Wilson, I showed up mine for you. People speak for you, what about?
That's better. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel better.
Have a halo. Yeah, that help.
That was the second. That's where we always make.
Right, so to that end, Commissioner Peterson, I know that behavioral health, it's not always things or something that people campaign on and it's new, and I'd be happy to meet with you for an hour and talk about how it works, the contract with the state. Part of that, it's not a part of that, so I know that you're taking in a lot and not trying to hoist behavioral health on you, but if at some point if you'd like to meet, I can drive to Ione or we could meet at the office or whatever works, have lunch, and I could go over things, should you want that.
I would appreciate that.
Would you like me to reach out to you to schedule a time? All right. I don't know that I have his email address.
I'll send it to
Would you mind? Thank you so much. Okay. So I set my documents and my agenda. in an email to Valerie. I'm just going to go through that. The first few documents are the site review that the state did for developmental disabilities. They come every couple of years. The first, just the cover letter. The second document is the findings and the action plan. They did give us a compliment, said while there are several findings, there's actually fewer than what they found when they went to other counties this go around overall. There's opportunities for improvement. So we are putting together our response plan and we'll have it back to them. I think by the end of this month. We actually we did send in a remediation and they had a couple of questions for us, and so we are working on that and sending it back. I don't know that you want to go through every finding, but would you like me to go through each one, or if you had any questions?
I think if you hit us with the highlights, that would be.
Well, I already did mention one of the highlights, I mean, so you could see that it shows, if you look at page 3, it says service plan. Well, I don't know how yours printed, but it says findings and it talks about areas of strength and then identified issues, and it says there are no deficiencies. So actually looks like there's a finding, but there's not. So you just want to mention that. There's some training that needs to happen. We had some changes in our supervisory structure. And because of that, there, page 7, the job description hadn't been signed by that. So there's just some detail that we need to catch up on. A signed job description is concerning, but probably not super concerning. So just the ones that I think are the most significant would be actually the one on the first page, assessment, making sure that, so when you're identified eligible for services because of an assessment, that releases funding, and the funding is coming to the county and then getting passed on to the individual. If the assessment hasn't been done in keeping with the federal standards, then you've got some financial liability there. So those are the things that we're addressing first and making sure that they're getting filed up on. And so you see right here, in the 12 files reviewed, the freedom of choice form was not completed correctly. So the upside is that it's not that the person didn't have a qualifying disability that would render a payback, but the downside is that it is part of those federal forms that are required to get done, and we want to make sure we're doing that correctly. So that's what I would say. Alrighty.
So I just want to say, when I looked through this, I thought it was great that there were very few deficiencies found. So, and overall, you're doing a good job. And it bears that out. I think anytime somebody comes in to do an audit or something, they're going to try to. The biggest thing is that you're providing the right services and helping the people. Not that the paperwork and stuff isn't important, but obviously the patient is the most important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So our developmental disability team is small but mighty. That's what I like to say. So they're doing a great job providing some really important services to individuals in our counties. I mean, they are the most vulnerable people that we're serving in many ways. The next document, we do a strategic plan every 3 years, or we have since maybe, I don't know, probably 2009 was our first plan. So you're looking at the 2022-2024 strategic plan. That just passed. I think it's important to share with you a new plan, to give you updates on it periodically, and then let you know when the plan is ended. And if there was anything that we were not able to accomplish. For this plan, we accomplished 90% of the items. There are a few that we are carrying over. Different things happened, like one of the challenges, you'll recall 2022, we're still coming out of the pandemic. I mean, we're mostly out, but there was some delays, things that we were waiting on from the state. The state wasn't quite back to where they were prior to the pandemic. So a few things, specific tasks carried over, but for the most part, we accomplished the bulk of this plan. Any questions or comments? Again, there's several things in there, so I just don't want to go through it item by item and know you have
So
a chance to review.
what are the things that are carrying over?
Okay. The trauma-informed care, we are near implementation for that. So that is the third task, functional objective, address gaps in service delivery specific to trauma-informed care. Most of the programs have that implemented, but not every one. So that's near completion. And then under so it's 3, the mentoring program for new employees. So that's 3, the last functional objective, internal mentoring program. Actually, I can't put that back on the state. That's a staffing issue where we just had we had turnover and struggled to identify staff that weren't already burdened with high caseloads to provide the mentoring. So we don't have as many mentors as we would like, and therefore we're not able to pair everyone for that.
Thank you.
Yep. Then you have the brand new plan. We started to work on this last summer, wrapped it up in early December. We changed how we're doing the plans. In the past, it's been individuals from all programs coming together to work on tasks that may not be a part of their program. There's some upside to that, and that they learn more about the agency and they get out of their comfort zone. The downside is that sometimes they're talking about things that are not innate to them in their area of expertise. So now each of the individuals that are involved in the objectives are working on objectives that are specific to their program. And all of the objectives are program specific as opposed to agency wide. So there are some administrative, there's some clinical, there's developmental disabilities, human resources, health department down in Grant County. So you see the department name at the top, that's new. Then you see the functional objectives underneath that. The rest of the format looks the same. It's spread out over 3 years, and typically my goal is to come back to you about once a year and report on how we're doing. I don't know that I hit that well this time. I might have only reported on it once, maybe midway a year and a half ago. Any questions or concerns about the tasks that we're working on? This is the fun, exciting stuff for me. But if I went through it, I know it would take longer than.
Well, what's the most fun, exciting stuff for you? What's the thing that you're like, this is awesome that we're able to do this?
Well, on the kids program, the IIBHT work, that's just a piece that's always near and dear to my heart. So that's if pages aren't numbered, but first page, department name, outpatient children's mental health. All of the work that we do supporting the kids that are at the highest risk, I think is critical, and just lots of opportunities there to facilitate the work. between the IIBHT, intensive in-home behavioral health treatment and wraparound. The crisis, we're adding more services to our crisis response that will benefit law enforcement and those that are struggling in Morrow County. So some neat opportunity there. Residential. This isn't in here and I'm going to talk about it, but the children's subacute program that we're opening up. It's not in here because it's just in the works. Lots of good things that are going to occur there. The warm line, increasing outreach. If you type in the David Rompuy, Oregon warm line, it is the #1 warm line in the nation. And it started right here, actually started in Wheeler County, but it's a CCS program. So more opportunity there to reach out and to do good work there. Those are 3 that I think are neat for CCS. Anything else? We have a lot going on, lots and lots going on. So these are all under the hood items, what I call under the hood. The compliance report, we have a compliance officer that puts together an annual summary for the board of directors. I think it's important to share this information with you. We have a contract. So where are the areas that we're doing well and where are there opportunities? You can read through Tim's executive summary. We're just very candid. We are not a perfect agency. For example, the first question and answer, these are questions that the feds put out that they would want to know or speak to if they did come and audit CCS. Do we track access to various policies and procedures to understand what are attracting more attention from relevant employees? This hasn't been done in the past, but we are going to begin to track it moving forward. Each year, the feds highlight different areas that they're going to focus on when they come and do an audit. These questions are the areas that they're highlighting for 2025. These are the responses. Well, they didn't ask us this, but they put it out. So these are the things that we're going to be working on specific to 2025. Questions or comments on that document?
No, I think it was probably that where it was referenced about doing something and tracking, incentivizing something. And
Yes.
that they
Good
had
catch.
3 experts that wrote books on it, and they can't come up with a measurable way
To track that.
yeah, so this seems like
Yeah.
a stupid question. If you can't, if there, the people that are writing books on it can't tell you how to track it.
It was funny. Tim and I went to the National Compliance Conference last spring and presented on how do you support law enforcement in a crisis when there's limited information that you can provide, but people are clearly struggling. Behavioral health, a very different set of HIPAA requirements than medical. And it can be a challenge. So how do you do what the person needs without compromising the legal issues? That's what we presented on. So we're there with the experts in the field, Commissioner, on this stuff. And this is one of these questions. How are you adequately tracking the things that are important? And when they can't answer that, you just
When they
scratch
tell
your
you
head
that
a
they
little
don't know how
bit.
to measure it, how are you supposed to be able?
Right, right. So I mentioned to you, and I think I actually brought the same document in that we did supply or did respond to the Measure 110 funding request that came out in August, I believe, and was due in early October on behalf of Morrow County. It is a direct contract between the state and CCS, but we're responding really because we have the contract with the county and are the best entity to respond. The state is in the process right now of making those funding decisions. they rolled back part of Measure 110, but the funding that goes around the marijuana tax is still funding that comes to us if we get approved. So, mostly for Commissioner Peterson wanted you all to, well, wanted him and all of you to be reminded of what we put in to do. Most of what you see here is a continuation of the work that we have been doing with those funds. There are some additional supports that we're wanting to put in place. In a perfect world, we would like to see a crisis drop-off center or a crisis navigation center. That can be a challenge because people are voluntary. So it is nice for law enforcement, but if the person says they don't want to go, then the person doesn't want to go. But it is still an added resource. So we'll see what the state says. I don't know who else applied for Morrow County last. So let's see, are we going on 3 or 4 years now? For giggles, let's say, I think it's 3 years. So 3 years ago, for the most part, we were the only entity that responded for Morrow County, but they haven't yet released who all applied. Any questions or comments on that? Should know by the end of the month. So next time I'm here, I'll be able to report on that. Next document is the warm line. Mentioned that earlier. I give this to you every time I come. We submit a quarterly report to the state. It's mostly just an FYI. It's a statewide program. It's a direct contract with the state. I always am so impressed with the numbers. Last quarter, we served 21,000 people on that warm line. So it's just an excellent service for Oregonians. Last document, we have the Columbia River Ranch report. They put this together for the CCS Board of Directors, but it plans to share it with you. Columbia River Ranch is a residential program, non-secure residential program located in Boardman. It's been there since 2004. If you don't know it's there, that's a good thing. People that have lived there longer are, familiar with it. 2 quick updates. The kids subacute program, PRTS psychiatric residential treatment. It's being built. You've seen it probably. You see it from the freeway. It's right down by Umatilla Electric in Boardman. We expect it to be complete around May or so. If the commissioners would like a tour at any time, close to completion or after completion, but before we open, would be happy to provide that. It is the only subacute PRTS facility on this side of the state. It will be an excellent resource for what I fondly refer to as the littles. So we'll be serving individuals 12 and under, both sexes. The average length, well, for the subacute, that's less than 90 days. Psychiatric residential treatment can be up to a year, but usually you're looking at around 6 months, 13 beds. So I'll mention it again when I come next, but if you want an individual tour, if you wanted to go through it all together, I know you get the public meeting stuff that way, but happy to provide that. I would really like to show it to you. So any questions on that building?
No, I would just like to say I would be interested in seeing it, so.
Okay, great. Last but not least, the Morrow County has the local community advisory council. You may have heard of that. In the past, there's been a commissioner that has been appointed to that from this body. I think that the prior appointee was Commissioner Drago. And this is just a statement, it's just a statement. I don't know that the participation was high at those meetings. And the committee, and I feel that commissioner participation is really helpful. You have health representatives from across the county that attend the meeting, and it's a good forum to discuss things that are occurring and struggles and opportunities. So just was wondering if it was possible for the group to discuss that now or later and identify a person who might be able to attend those meetings.
I'm on the list, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, I intend to be there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it. Questions for me or, anything specific to CCS? I will reach out to you to
Yeah.
schedule a time to meet. Excellent.
Any questions, further questions? For Billy?
No, just state that, yeah, when maybe sometime end of April when you're pretty close to done.
Absolutely. Yep. Be doing the same for the advisory board too, just.
Well,
But you can join anytime. Yeah. Anybody that wants to see it. Love to show it off.
if I wanted to just like that one. As an advisory, you mentioned the behavioral health advisory committee, each county has that, really it's kind of that go between that. You have advisory members and the providers kind of touching base. And saying, hey, what's working well, what isn't, or any recommendations, and includes, I'm their district attorney, and there since the very beginning. And I remember when we first started, we had a lot of even family members, maybe individuals who are getting services. You might have this family, those members who really say, hey, here's good or bad or things going on. So we have a good turnout. We used to, not as well now because not as many folks.
Struggling that way.
Yeah, struggling on it. And so I think it's very important. And the same reports that Kimberly provided you, these detailed ones, she provides us too. So I mean, definitely it's an open book that way of, and even though it seems small, if there's any audit issues that come up, like, oh, this one wasn't put in the right form, Kimberly will bring it up. And we might say, oh, it's okay, but really they are keeping track of each one of those things. So I just want to say I appreciate it. She doesn't just come to this, but that advisory committee, which we hold every few months, also discusses it quite a bit. So I appreciate that. I just want to mention that.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you for your time.
Great.
Forward to getting to learn a whole lot more.
Always nice to come and meet with you all. So thank you and I'll be in touch.
Okay. Item of business is 6B, when I do code amendment, AZ 154-24.
So, I just wanted to do a short introduction on this, Sheriff, that's all right. As we've worked through these and just to recognize the comment that was made in public comments, we do have formatting that's not polished the way we want to. One of our commitments is to have that taken care of if the commission were to consider today and have that polished up and taken care of before we posted it and it was effective. Owing to that fact, we just wanted to say we've implemented most of the changes that were discussed at the last meeting. We reviewed it with Commissioner Winholtz, and there was some additional formatting changes that have been implemented with the items that are in the packet, and a few minor modifications that haven't been discussed. But we, owing to the fact of the public comment and just the many iterations that have come through, wanted to see if the commission would like to consider today, or if they'd like to have us come back on the 22nd and have it all snazzied up and made sure it's taken care of.
I'd be fine with moving forward with your commitment that it will be, gone through. After the multiple times that I've read through the thing and, I've pointed out, some of them minor, some of them, I think that we've addressed most of the major things. And I still want to be here and performing these stuff. It's your commitment that will all be fixed.
We've identified a few technical issues, just, when you redline it, hit that accept, sometimes it doesn't follow the formatting. So we're committed on going through this process to polish it up a little bit. We do have Dan Kearns on here. There was a question, he can address just, those Scrivener corrections if you do have a question on that. But we do have 4 amendments and a final question that Commissioner Winholz brought up. Article 10, that the consulting attorney, Dan Kearns, can address if the commission would like to proceed with consideration.
I agree with you. Move forward, so,
I appreciate that. So,
so do we need, yeah, there's 10 issues. Who's,
For the record, Chandler Mabbitt, Planning Director. So we have a red line version and what we've called a clean copy. We're having issues transferring documents. Understaffed in the planning department. We've been working back and forth remotely and also with Matt's help on formatting. This will be our 5th meeting to discuss this code update that was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission. In my career, it's common practice. You have some Scrivener's errors that you format, etc. After adoption. I think our land use counsel, Dan Kearns, can tell us today that that's common practice, particularly when the board offers explicit authority to do so. So rather than going through in great detail, we did that. Daisy Goebel, our principal planner, who has since moved back to Salem, but is working part-time remotely, at least till we find a replacement. She gave a robust staff report twice. So it's not my preference to have any form of a document with any errors, but you do have some. So however you'd like to proceed.
I think it would be appropriate to accept the code amendments as presented with the following amendments here, with the understanding that the Scrivener's errors will be corrected. I think that, so,
So I guess I'd like to. I don't know the official definition of Scrivener error, but when something references something else, in the classic example of last month, when we were talking about dogs and a reference to winery, I personally can call that Scrivener. The Scrivener error to me was be like one of the things, excuse me, don't be like pointed out to Matt. The word feel should have been fed, but feed. To me, that's a Scrivener error. But when something clearly doesn't reference the correct thing, doesn't say this is Scrivener.
and from the last meeting, we have, with Commissioner Weinholz's help, confirmed the cross references. And so those are correct as is. That were just the fill to feed and a few of the formatting of the last things that we would need to do before posting it for published, along with these amendments.
So I think it was referenced, so it's, Dan Kearns had a, something to chime in on 10.08.
Yes, so Dan, are you available?
He's right there. So you're still on mute and we don't see you, Dan.
Got it, so you can share screen. So the case.
Oh. He said he's not able to turn on his video or unmute himself.
Well, let me find that and I'll see if I can do it for him. Dan, can you speak and see if that unmuted you?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Heard some folks.
Can-
We hear you very quietly, Dan.
Let's see. How about now? Is it a little better, a little louder?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, I don't think I can put my video on, but when it comes to these sorts of what we call Scrivener's errors, it's a very common situation when you have a comprehensive legislative code amendment, especially in the manner of a housekeeping, because the big problem are these cross references, internal cross references embedded within the code. And so if you're inclined to adopt the substantive amendments before you, you can authorize staff to address specific kinds of Scrivener's errors post-adoption. And so that would be typographic errors, misspellings, and these uh, incorrect cross references, references to other code sections. And if there's any question about what should it be, this code section or that code section, because it's not clear, they can bring that back to you. But the point of this is just to make it kind of procedurally easy to fix these things, which are common problems in these kinds of legislative amendments. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, so just be clear about what authorization you're giving staff. So, you know, the cross references are usually pretty clear to figure out.
The other one that we had, was we touched on Article 10. And in Article 10, there is reference to adoption of the, enactment clause on there. Since we are adding some language in there, is there it says on section 10.080, which we added language above it because of the zoning permit items. It says the enactment, this ordinance was adopted by the Morrow County Court on November 7th, 2001. This ordinance shall become effective 90 days after the date of its adoption by the Morrow County Court. Is that something we need to update since we are touching Article 10 of the land code?
I don't think so. I think that refers to the original enactment. And typically when you've got a amendment like you're dealing with now, I'll put the effective date in the ordinance itself, and it doesn't get codified. So usually the only codified effective date is when this chapter is originally adopted. And so it's effective going forward, subject to all subsequent amendments. So that shouldn't be a defect. I don't recommend you fuss with the date.
Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Ingles? Okay. Any other questions or about the proposed amendments? Any that we can address the staff?
Should, just procedurally, Matt, if these additional changes that you and Commissioner Winholtz reviewed, those have not been vetted in any public meeting, they were just posted yesterday. Do you want to discuss these individually? All the other changes were,
I could read them out loud.
or just to acknowledge them so that there's some public record that these changes are also to be added.
I can explain that for the commission and for the public record.
Sure.
So we have four more or less clarification and continuity amendments that we're offering that were not part of the public process. We are putting amending language in Article 3, Section 3.010.d.19. Currently reads confined animal feeding operations subject to Section F20. We are amending it to say confined animal feeding operations as defined by the Oregon Department of Agriculture. They've much case law and legislation. We're doing a similar amendment in Article 3, Section 3.010.f.20.b. They also reference a new large confined animal feeding operation. We're also adding as defined by the Oregon Department of Agriculture. The third amendment is dealing with agritourism in Article 3, Section 3.010.l.2.b. The original language says may not begin before 6 a.m. or end after 10 p.m. There are two other sections within this section that reference regular large agritourism business, and it has it starting at 7 to 11, and then they have a repeating one that's 7 to 11. But this is like a what is it called?
Mass gathering.
Yeah, well, the middle one was like a expedited. so the expedited could start an hour earlier, but had to end an hour earlier as well. We didn't understand the continuity with that, so we just adjusted it, so it's the same start and close time. The last one is in section 3.076.c.1. To add for clarification, one of the things we've added in several of the others in the clean copy and red line copy is to make sure farming is an outright use that does not require a permit unless there's a building involved. And there's one section that refers to a section that's not included in any of this comprehensive look that said all outright provisions allowed in this section are allowed in this one. And this one just specifically adds the farming with the same language we added in the other sections. So all of these are just for clarification. We do not feel like they're substantive changes, but it just kind of bulletproofs and makes the land use consistent with the other changes that have been proposed and vetted. I think the biggest one is just changing that agritourism events to be consistent with that. So that's what's proposed as far as the amendments.
I think they look great, and I really do appreciate making farming clear as an outright use, particularly just given our economy and the way that Morrow County is structured. That's really important to make sure that that is absolutely clear. So I appreciate that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to final changes of code. Land use application AZ -154-24 and adopt ordinance 2025-01.
Before you finish, Dan, should that motion also include explicit authorization to make necessary Scrivener error corrections? Where'd he go? Oh, he's up there. Do you have to let him back in?
I hope not.
Okay.
Let me see. If I can find it on here. Yes, I must unmute him.
Okay.
Dan, can you talk?
Let's see.
Yep,
Yes.
now we can hear.
Okay, I feel I'm unchained now. Yes, give the explicit authorization to fix those things. I noticed in that last amendment that the manager mentioned, there is a double word, so that's another of is in there twice. So,
And that was corrected in the copy that I gave the commissioners.
okay, but you see, it's a very difficult task to get them all out. So yes, give explicit authorization, and if you want to put sideboards on that, feel free to do so. But it's a pain in the neck to keep bringing an ordinance back to correct these things.
Okay, any other comments?
So
Daniel?
I will make the motion to accept the final changes for amendments in county land use application AZ-154-24. Adopt ordinance 2025-01, authorizing staff to make corrections as needed.
Non-substantive.
Non-substantive.
Yep.
And this technically is the second reading of the ordinance, so we just need to be explicit about that also.
Does that have to go in the motion?
I think so, because you've already
it's a-
had the first reading.
Yeah, move to read for the second time and adopt. And you've the changes that happened between the first and second reading, you're required to read substantive changes out loud, which were done. So you're good to go with the motion for second reading and final adoption.
Okay. Valerie, you want to take a shot at telling us what?
I kind of lost track of that too.
I think I could do it.
Go for it.
Okay, I move to accept the second reading of the final changes of code amendments in county land use application AZ 15424 and adopt ordinance 2025-01 with the county being able to make non-substantive corrections.
Daniel, does that sound
Yep.
good?
That works.
Remember?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
So I'll second that motion.
okay, then move to second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye, of the third.
Chair,
Okay.
so if I could
Yes.
just put in the record, we've, as staff, we've reviewed this, how this process is stumbling along a little bit. And we are committed to kind of fine tune some of that, particularly workshop sessions before any large comprehensive zoning updates come before, or any code updates come before the commission. And we'll be doubling down on the technical review and how to eliminate some of those formatting and other things that makes it hard to read, nothing else. So I appreciate the staff's diligent work on it. Appreciate your patience as we work through these. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Stuff is 6D. Morrow County Representative for Association of Oregon Counties Legislative Slate. Valerie, that's yours, so.
Well, AOC reached out. And just wanted to know if the board would like to have a representation on the legislative committee as a county not otherwise represented.
I would say yes.
Jeff, do you want to explain? I think you're more familiar than a lot of us on what that position entails. I don't
I
know.
don't know if I am, Dave.
Oh, I was,
I know
you
that-
seem like when I talk to you a lot of times. you seem-
So I think that Junior had kind of gotten involved in
He
some of
did,
that,
he
attended
did.
some of those, but if Gus is interested in doing that,
Well, that's what I was gonna ask him, but I thought we ought to tell him what it entailed first.
I'm willing to
You
just
know?
dive in. Yes, I have had some conversation at the AOC
Okay.
meeting.
So you know what the job is.
Yeah, it's a lot of meeting, a lot of talking.
All right, will you take it?
I will.
All right.
I will move to appoint Gus Peterson as the representative to the AOC Legislative Committee.
I'll second it. Then moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you, Gus. Okay, next up is 6E. Morrow County Public Transit 2025-27 statewide transportation improvement fund plan approval. Dr.
Hello, Commissioners.
Hello.
I want to recognize that several of our STIF Advisory Council members are joining us remotely. I appreciate them being here as well. I'm bringing forward to you today our statewide transit improvement fund plan as put together. I've been working closely with ODOT to put together a plan that gives us the most leeway within the spending of our money to continue the operations that we have going and be able to refine those moving forward. Obviously, transit is changed a lot in Oregon since this came forward 2 years ago. We're looking at our current round of funding. Our grants and our STIF plan is expiring in June of this year. The plan I'm putting forward to you today will start July of this year and continue through 2027 for the 25-27 year. I put forward several pieces here. The first is the plan as proposed, the details of those, breaking out the projects and the tasks within those projects on how we intend to make those funds available from the state. That includes both the new funds that we are getting from this STIF plan. Those STIF funds come from the percentage of our payroll taxes that come from Oregon. They're gathered from two different sources, one of which is the payroll tax, and the other is based on, they all come out of the payroll tax. Part of it is given out based on the amount received from employees within the county. The other part is received from the population of the county. Those two funds come together now in this STIF, and those monies are then used to meet the statewide goals and the county's way of putting that forward. This plan put together consists of 3 projects, broken into several tasks per project. The first project is our general funding, broken in task 1 is the employee wages for the Morrow County Public Transit. The second is our operations and preventative maintenance piece of that. Those two are kind of our most fixed things. Those are the things that we know we're gonna have to spend money on. And as part of those, we've added a contingency for the operations. One key thing to look at in this plan is monies can be spent within a project between tasks with ODOT approval. However, monies cannot be moved between projects. So any money set aside in a project is stuck within that project. This plan is simplified with the intent of any changes that move in the next 2 years, we can utilize those funds to the best of our ability, and we don't have something trapped somewhere that we're not going to be able to use that monies. So we have we have our ops and preventative maintenance and our wages. We've included the contingency ops that can be utilized again between those two moving forward. So depending on our funding level or our staffing levels, depending on what happens in that, we can utilize that contingency ops money. We also have a vehicle contingency in reserve. This money is set aside. Traditionally, there has been a reserve set aside for vehicle purchases, right? As our vehicles are aging, we know that eventually we're going to have to replace those. And it was brought to our attention that we didn't, in the first iteration of this, have any money set aside because of the limitedness of these funds. And I can go over those as we move forward. We didn't want to set money aside specifically that was going to have to go forward and then not have access to that money. So that task within that project allows for both of those two things to take place. Any money's not spent will be carried over so that we can utilize those. The last of that is our mobility management and marketing. One thing that we've become increasingly aware of is our lack of successful outreach to the community to educate them on what's going on, to keep them up to date with what these changes are that we've had to make to stay in compliance and to become more efficient. And we wanted to make sure that we set money aside to make sure that we could do those things in the future. The second project is set aside that consists of our matching funds. Any of our state and federal grants typically come with some sort of match that is required, a local match. And so we predicted that and put that in there at the $77,000 mark. The third project is our purchase services. That is set aside specifically for both Kayak and the Good Shepherd Caravan programs. Kayak currently they come in 2 times a day into Oregon and service that community, going back and forth to Hermiston. They are now expanding to coming to Boardman, and that reflects us paying for them, right? That $30,000 over the 2 years, we couldn't stand up that service for that. That's a high bang for our buck to be able to do that. The second is that Good Shepherd for $20,000 over the next 2 years. That allows them to service North Morrow County clients going to and from Good Shepherd clinics, and that alleviates our need for our van services in that area. It just provides another option for when we can't staff those. I do feel like that's an important piece of that. The applications are included in the packet that I put forward for those. There's 2 separate ones for Good Shepherd. One is seniors and disabled citizens. The other is for veterans specifically, and those monies are paid out based on their ridership that meet those needs. The third task that you see on there within Project 3 was one that was discussed concerning a van pool option for employers in Morrow County and Boardman specifically. That was $24,000. That was an estimated amount based on us putting forth $500 a month to help subsidize that van pool. We've also learned that Oregon State ODOT is putting forth, they have $4 million set aside specifically to stand up new van pool systems in Morrow County. It was discussed in our Transit Advisory Committee whether we should or shouldn't include that. And due to the availability of the funds, discussion and recommendation was to not include that in here. And that's why there's a zero sum in that line. That brings our total plan to $1,934,395. And again, we can go over those specifics when we get there. I've also included on this opening sheet for your vote the recorded stiff member votes and the statement requesting that those monies be moved out of the van pool into the other piece by the members who made such a recommendation. The others were not specifically stated yay or nay as to include the van pool. However, it is my recommendation that we do not include that.
So for my understanding, you said that the state has set aside quite a bit of money for this. So
Yes.
why is there not pursuit of, why we have zero money? Is there because we expect the state to fund it all? Is that the reason for that?
So that is because we don't have the available funds, and I'll go over this piece here set aside. That's $24,000 that would have been locked into that project that we couldn't have used anywhere else if it comes out.
So required matching?
No. So for example, if I had set that $24,000 in there as initially discussed,
Mhm.
and that project didn't ever come to fruition, that would have been money that we didn't have available to
Okay.
use for anything else, right? That would have been locked in until after this budget cycle ends.
Okay.
So knowing that other agencies have started these programs and it's gone years before they have any available thing to show for it,
Okay.
it didn't seem like a good use of our funds to lock those in, especially knowing that ODOT is going to entirely take that. We won't have anything to do with that. That will be between the businesses and the employees, the employers, and
So ODOT wasn't proposing doing it in conjunction. It was like, no, we've had this entirely.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
If I
Go
can
ahead.
help clear something up, so basically they're two separate funds.
Huh.
The state of Oregon is coming out with a new program to help support bolster rural transportation, which is separate from what we're talking about.
Okay.
Just for the record, so people
Oh,
know, could you identify?
sorry.
your position?
I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm Vince Guerrero. I'm the Assistant County Administrator, and I help to oversee transit services.
Okay.
So just to help explain that, they're two separate funds, and the fund that he's talking about, the $4 million, we won't have anything to do with that. That will be directly, the state will go directly to separate businesses, rural businesses, like on the port, and so we won't have anything to do with that.
But it will exist without us having to. do it.
Correct.
Good. Awesome. That was clarification I was looking for.
I apologize for that confusion.
That's all right. I have a lot to learn.
As I am finding out, do I. So looking over the budgetary piece of this and an explanation of where this plan came from. I've broken out into lines on the side here so we can have references. I've previously come before you and asked for our 5311 and 5310 grants to be approved. Those have been taken forward and were granted by the state of Oregon, again, starting in July of this year. Those will take place. We were able to set aside the 5311 funds for that, which covers our administrative costs. That covers the manager, the assistant man, or the manager, the supervisor, and any of those administrative type costs, so that we don't have to use the stiff monies to pay for those. This is just driver and employee wages out of that. Additionally, we were able to set aside some funds for the preventative maintenance. Again, we know that those things are going to occur. We have to maintain our vehicles, and we had some monies able to set aside for that. The 5310 was a vehicle expansion, again, back to our aging fleet. We were able to get that approved to purchase a right-sized vehicle, moving away from the minivans that we've had. They do well. However, they are a minivan that is now being overtaxed. By the time you add a wheelchair, you add these things, you've eliminated a lot of seats available in those, and you're using a family vehicle in an industrial setting. The purchase of this right-sized vehicle is the transit-style vehicle, will allow us to put 2 wheelchairs in that vehicle along with additional passengers, maximizing our drivers per rider or riders per driver ratio. Using that money will hopefully lessen our preventative maintenance needs on our aging fleet, thereby expanding these funds further. Additionally, there's an HRTG grant that have received. That is our highly rural veterans grant. That shows $90,000. That's incorporated in this. However, I want to make sure that we highlight that is completely reimbursement based. So we have to spend those monies on those highly rural veterans in order to receive any of that money. So while that 90,000 is incorporated in this budgetary piece, we have to have those ridership. We have to use that in order to get a reimbursement on that.
What's a highly rural?
So highly rural, Morrow County is highly rural, right?
Okay.
So yes, it's just the way that grant is written out to serve those members who don't have access to services more directly.
And just there's a certain percentage of how much.
But the county just qualifies for that.
Correct.
Is this only for people who are super isolated?
No, that's for the county, correct, yep. So, those monies are shown there. That is, again, outside of this, but helps spread this money further to account for how we came to these numbers. Within this plan, we have $950,000 set aside for the wages over the 2 years. The ops and preventative maintenance, we set aside $552,395. The contingency operations, again, just a sum to set it there, was $100,000. And that vehicle and contingency reserve, same. If anything was to happen with our aging fleet, we have a catastrophic failure, that is the only monies we would have available to purchase a replacement vehicle. And any monies not spent in that would be able to be used in the future to purchase a vehicle. The mobility and marketing management includes that $55,000. That is anything related to the app that we're rolling out or trying to work on to increase the usability of our services and to allow those seniors, disabilities, general public, all of those persons to be able to use our services, as well as advertising those services to try to maximize our usage. Again, the matching funds set aside there is $77,000. If you look up at the top on line 9, there seems to be some discrepancy in that we only expect to pay $60,791 in our match for our available grants. The problem with limiting that fund to only that amount is any future grants we get, hopefully we're still exploring those options within this biennium, that will expand, right? Those will likely come with a match, and we wanted to make sure that we set money aside to be able to do that. Also, because that vehicle expansion is based on this year's state contract, we expect the price of that vehicle to go up, and we'll be able to use those match funds to help make up some of that difference without eating into some of the other areas that we have. Again, for our purchase services, we have the $30,000 set aside for the kayak and the $20,000 set aside for the Good Shepherd. Again, those applications were included that they submitted to us, and it is my recommendation that we proceed with those, as we're not likely to be able to compete with those and stand those services up on our own. Carrying over the total budgetary piece of this, we're looking at an estimated carryover at this time of $968,622. That number, again, is estimated. We're currently undergoing an audit to find out for sure what those numbers are. And there's a third piece, if you want to go over that explains what that audit's looking at and where that's coming from. Using that carryover money, the new funds that we're expecting to get from ODOT in this STIF plan, that includes a 20% increase. We have to account for, or we won't be able to use that, right? They've let us know we're probably going to get this extra $20,000, but right now we only have this much. If we weren't to account for that, we wouldn't be able to spend it, right? If they turned around and said, here's an extra 20%, we wouldn't have access to those if we didn't account for it in this plan. That is the plan as it stands. Do you guys have any questions for me regarding the page 1 is what I'm looking for a vote on so that I can finalize that in the paperwork and submit that application.
So Dave, as sitting here, dawned on me that since there is going to be a contract with Good Shepherd, I need to declare, just to be safe, a potential conflict of interest, because I'm on board of directors Good Shepherd, even though there has been this Oregon Government Ethics Commission has ruled that there is not a conflict of interest. I think that just be on the safe side of make it public knowledge that I am on board.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. That was great. Well done.
Okay. So I don't have the CDF motion.
Well, so if there's nothing else for Patrick, then I'll move to approve the STIP projects and passes proposed that the plan can be submitted to ODOT 1/16/2020.
9 seconds.
Second, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And Chair Sachs, if I could just make a comment. Our new public transit manager starts on Monday. Stephen, Vincent and I had a good discussion with him today about yesterday about everything going on. But I just want to kind of do a tip of the hat to Patrick. He's stepped up and acted as interim for the last 3 months, 2.5 months.
October, yeah.
And got thrown into this whole stiff renewal. And so he's done a good job in Deepwater, and I appreciate it. And he'll be resuming and his supervisor role, but he's been very invaluable for us during this dinner period. So I just want to recognize.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. We
Thanks for
appreciate you. Yeah, very much. So, okay, that concludes the business. Okay, before we start department reports, well, 5-minute recess. We're starting with our department reports. First up, 7A, District Attorney's Quarterly Report. It's just
Well, thank you very much, commissioners. Again, new commissioner Peterson. For the district attorney office, it's still work in progress with losing the deputy district attorney, Greg Goble. So as a background, our office, since the size of the office, personnel, pretty much the size has been the same since the entire time of the district attorney. We're very lucky for when I became district attorney in 2010. Since, for many years, we had Richard Tubby, the deputy district attorney, now over 10 years or so. So had a lot of consistency, really no staff turnover. Richard took that position over at the city of Herman as our city attorney. And so based upon that, it took a while finding position. It was a decent amount of time, I would say a year or so, and well, maybe less. And we had another deputy district attorney, Zach Williams, came in. He enjoyed his work here. He did both district attorney, also in county council, but primarily the district attorney work. Enjoyed it, but they had some family, there had some medical issues in Washington, so they moved back to Ellensburg area. Still keep in contact with them, and like I said, keep on trying to entice him, hey, come on back, because I know law enforcement really enjoyed working with him, but very difficult to move away from the family that will need your assistance. I took again, 9 months to a year or so. We were very lucky to bring in Greg Goble, who really came over because of Daisy. When he came over, I had to think, if Tamara was here, I would think Tamara, because but for that, he probably wouldn't have come over because she worked for the planning department. And they worked here for a bit. He was very interested. He's had prior experience with the prosecution, but then also the county council he enjoyed working on too. And so he came over, and that worked for about 9 months until they decided to still had a house in Salem, still there, had family over there. So they moved back there. I think Daisy still works a little bit from a distance, but I think she still started her master's program too. So feel it's a loss there. I mean, he definitely enjoyed doing that work. And so now we're back. I've got a month or two now without that spot, and was worried about it filling. So that's still, balancing the workload of it, prosecution and county council. And yeah, it's a busy time for us. One of the things I'll be looking at too, because county council work is still an important thing for sure. And these quick responses, I think being here has been great, being on site, helping out when people come in with questions is beneficial. But when there's bigger projects that come up, now having that work, trying to find someone to help out with that's gonna be important. I don't think waiting until the position is filled, that doesn't work. So my plan is to work with probably the administration and the county commissioners too, to see about the best process to find a person to assist as needed for certain projects, because that's worked already for the county, right? We have Mr. Kern that helps out there with the planning for that specialized aspect. And so something like that we had Mr. Blackmore for the ASA, legalizing that. But there are folks I can work with. I'm very much involved in the County Council Association. Know folks there that might be beneficial to reach out, to have someone to call and assist with questions as needed for this time. I think it's beneficial for us when we posting a job or having that option to entice someone to come over to show the county council work, but we can't wait. Even with that, it doesn't mean it doesn't get filled for a long time. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. I think that's important still, is that I know the commissioners probably definitely agree, getting that quick response time. I think I've been doing a good job with it still, but it could always be better. And I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to. I'll definitely admit to it, so. It's been a busy time, but I think the office wise, we're doing well. We had, when thinking about how can we help in these situations when we lose a deputy DA, how can we maybe spread out some of that workload? We looked at and we saw, like I said, our office staffing hasn't changed since I became district attorney. Hasn't. In the past, you apply for different positions to add, well, it hasn't come up yet, hasn't been approved. So during this most recent FTE request process for new positions, we did put in several. We're hoping hopefully some can be filled. The idea being that even a position like an investigator, like that can, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but have we moved off the county council?
So I'm just talking, we can go right back to it, or we can stop. You can stop me right now and mention that too.
Okay.
I'm talking about
I have
kind
a
of
couple
both.
questions about where we-
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead. I mean,
Oh,
do you want to?
I'll just continue real quick and then I'll let.
Yeah, go ahead.
That the investigator position might be able to help take some of that workload off what we do as an example of continued investigation cases. Like from our office, we do things like listen to those jail phone calls. You don't realize it, but we have solved many cases, resolved many cases by listening to these calls, which take time. That's something we might have an investigator work on. Following up, talking to victims, witnesses, something you wouldn't think that the prosecution would be involved in, but we are. So that's one aspect. If we can get approved, maybe we can work on balancing out some of that workload to another position. Just trying to think ahead for these situations, but that's all I had for DA. It's going pretty well so far. And so I apologize for any other questions.
No, that's, I just want to be clear in my mind anyway, is where exactly are you at? Are we getting another county council similar to what we've had in the past? Or are you just planning on using spot, if you want to go out on the spot market for attorney, or just different? We have several now, like you said, we have labor, we have planning, we don't have different things. Are you planning on, are you advertising for a new county council?
We're advertising as a deputy district attorney position. I think it also includes, in the past, it's included the possibility of doing county council work possibly as a way to entice people based upon the additional compensation. The deputy DA position by itself, the salary amount doesn't. Yeah, we don't win in competitions with other places.
It's because, of course, we have to plan on what we're gonna do,
Oh, yes.
go moving forward. So that's what I would like to know is, are you going to set up a similar situation? Are you planning on it where we have a county council like we've had, in the past, or should we look at another model?
My intent, and I think it worked out, personally, correct me if I'm wrong, with Greg, I think it worked out very well. And I think that's the plan I was hoping to do, something like that with his, that person who can do it. But I'll also admit, I think with the prior, with Zach, I don't think it worked out as well when he had the vote. Because I think you have to find a person that says, yeah, I want to do prosecution, but I'm also interested in county council. So my intent is to hire a person like Greg, or if they get hired on, for them to be, me and the board, be really honest with the person saying, hey, it's not just county council with a stipend, but you're really just prosecution. That doesn't work. And I think it did not work in the past. And I think we can see that didn't work. And so my intent is to try to find someone who can do both positions. I think until that time, I think it's beneficial to look at getting someone who can assist if needed on certain projects that come up so they don't get delayed. I think that's the idea, is kind of a backup person to assist, like a Dan Kearns or somebody, but reaching out even to our local communities who use other attorneys here and there to reach out. I mean, what I even think about, hey, I know Jeff Wallace, who's a former judge. He was a circuit court judge. He still does civil and some criminal work. Would he be interested? But it's not for me to say, right? It's not, I'm thinking about the benefit, what would be best for the board on it.
Right.
And so that's where I'm right now at this point, looking at doing that. You always hope, hey, maybe with the economy, maybe more people will be applying, but it hasn't happened yet. And so as we have push process, and that's where I'm looking at trying to find the spot to fill in. I think it's important to have someone here still to help these questions, but if those questions come up, these legal issues that are more time restrained, it's important to have somebody who take
Are
those
you
on.
trying to find somebody that's gonna live in Morrow County?
That's always the plan. I mean, right? That's the plan. And I mean, we don't require it. It's our position. It's not
It's not
usually.
required. I
No.
was just curious
Right.
of how, what your approach was on that, if, you know, the difficulty of getting staff to move into Morrow County.
It is. I mean, I'll say that is difficult at times, that process of it. We've had individuals, like even for Richard, when he was here, he lived in Hermiston. And he commuted over to hearing office for, gosh, 5-6 years. I think he did that. And that worked out fine. So our issue is our competition for deputy district attorneys and stuff with the valley. And my concern at times where I've seen it in Umatilla County, where they hire on the new people. They get like the 1 year experience, and now they're the top of they're probably gonna get them all Multnomah County where they want to end up. So they lose them. So I was disappointed with, was sad with Greg, because he had worked as a prosecutor in John Day, their county for a bit, so he knew the area. But so when we hired him, like, oh, this is gonna work. And they moved back from the master's program and stuff too to go there. Just gonna keep following, soon about an hour, we have that.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, our intent for the deputy DA aspect is to have them be in more Umatilla counties. I have noted that Umatilla County right now has a prosecutor that drives each day from the Tri-Cities. And so I'm like, that's a possibility, but I think it's always more difficult. With an attorney, you have to be barred in each state. And so sometimes that person who's licensed attorney in Washington might not be licensed in Oregon. So we can broaden our horizons and say, hey, we'll take, a person who wants to commute. We allow people at times to work, you can remotely from home, but still as a prosecution, a lot of times you're still in the courtroom. Some offices, that's just actually thinking outside the box, which I think this is a market we have to do.
One more question, is, now, I'm trying to remember back the process when we hired Greg, but, okay, so you hired deputy district attorney.
Correct.
Now, the county council works directly for the BOC. We have two positions, the administrator and the.
Correct.
Okay, so what do you plan? Our involvement here, we should have involvement.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In this hiring process, or are you hiring a deputy district attorney and saying, oh, well, we'd like you to be county council too?
The process, I think, particularly when it was with Greg, I think how it worked pretty good was to say, okay, we have the district attorney and additional assignment, not you can do county council. First, you're applying, are you interested in doing county council work? You might have a person that says, no, I'm a prosecutor, I don't want to do anything else. Okay, well, that answers that, and we'll, for that aspect. They say, well, yeah, I think I'm interested in county council. I like that idea that it's not just being stuck on criminal, I can do multiple things. Well, then we were very honest saying, okay, this you're applying for it, but that's separate by the board of commissioners. When this comes before, board of commissioners can review this also. It could be a case where you are hired as a deputy district attorney, but for some reason, there's not the same fit for board commissioners, and they think, we don't think you'll work for county council. So it is not a set thing where I can say, oh, you're hired 100% do this. You were hired as both a deputy district attorney and county council. That part we make clear is board of commissioner approval on the additional aspect of
Okay,
it.
thank you,
So you guys are in complete control.
thank you.
And I think anything else? No, it's anything about certain kind of case. I know this when the sheriff office comes, they bring different numbers sometimes, but I try to sit back and think, does anything stand out as more? More drunk driving cases we see on the north end of the county. That's been brought to my attention. Like, gosh, what did I say in Boardman? Or seeing more drunk drivers in Boardman. Was there just more of an issue there? And my thought when I looked at this and thought about it some is like, I don't know if it's that or also the way Boardman is set up. If you think about it as a city, as a town, it has two, like really one main one path, one overpass that connects the two sides. So if you're law enforcement and not a lot of ways to like sneak around after the bar. So when I look at these reports, I see where they're stopped at, like, well, it's pretty, and since Boardman has his own police department, it's easy to catch these folks sometimes. If you park in certain spots, it's gonna be simple to see bad driving. They can't evade or go around. I can't guarantee there's not just as many drunk drivers in the south of the county that, because it's more rural, have a lot of other roads to go around, will get arrested. So I think, I can't say that that's, again, a huge outpour that's different than the rest of the county. It's just what we've seen and people talk about. But I just think Borman's set up with their own police force and the limited roads that connect each side makes it easier.
Population there too.
What's that?
Larger population.
Huge population. Yeah, a growing population increases that too, but unique layout I've seen, especially when they get pulled over, you're like, you started one side, made some drinking, going to the gas station for more drinks or something, and you're going back across the other side to where some of the housing is, and that's where you can get arrested, because it's obviously when you're driving, those bad driving situations. Other questions? I encourage commissioners, if you ever have a question about really how the criminal process works, if you want to attend court, we are open to the public. We have WebEx connections. If you want to just dial in and say, hey, what's happening in court? Can I just see what court's like in the circuit court? When Judge Hill is there, you can dial in from your home and watch court on WebEx. It's open to the public. And so I encourage folks to see that, come by the office, see what we do, how we do it.
Where's a good explanation of how you can access active cases in report? You know, like, I won't name any names.
No, no, absolutely.
Not individuals, but some of the organizations that we're involved with.
Perfect. So what
Lawsuits here or there. So how do we get to where and find out, you know, and look at the active lawsuit and the motions in the file? Where is that?
So I can always provide that information if you want to ask me, but if anybody in the public wants to know, hey, what's going on in this case or any case, it is I have it open right now. It's called the Oregon E-Court Case Information. Oregon E-Court Case Information, and I believe, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you email each of us
Absolutely.
that link?
I'm not sure if you have to register to easily get into it, because I know on the public side over here, on the second floor of the courthouse, you'll see there's a computer terminal. I wish Irma was here because she could remind us, but I believe the court set that up for public access to those documents too. So I know when I log into what I call it E-Court. E-Court, it requires me to log in. And so I think the public can register for it, and I will send you the links of that. So if you want to as a public person, but sometimes I don't, it might also be easier to go upstairs and use that terminal, and I can try and find
Is there a
out.
fee for using this?
Not for using the terminal. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, if we want to access it off our computers.
I will see, because I'll go through the
I mean, I'm
process.
just thinking is, we're not actually the public. I mean, if somebody's suing Morrow County, we're, you know, the defendant, so we're not actually the public, but if there's a fee, maybe we ought to see about having the county pay that, so, you know, like I said, because.
We can stay informed.
What?
So we can stay informed as things develop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can throw you a few names out right now, CDA.
Yeah.
We're being sued.
And what I can do,
Do you want to pick up on what's going on?
So,
yeah.
On that note, at our next meeting, because that'd be an executive session deal, can you give us an update on?
absolutely, let's add that to the agenda.
As far as I know, nothing's happening.
Nothing, yeah. Now it's going to start happening, yeah. So
Next meeting.
definitely we'll set up our executive session next time on the litigation exception. But I'll also look, what I'll be doing then today is on the E-Court system. I want to see if there's a way we can create an account, just like my staff have, that can be utilized by county administration. The E-Court may want to limit that, a limit by saying, oh, well, they shouldn't have access to juvenile cases. So I got to find a way to say, okay, you're right. You don't get access to civil commitments, juvenile cases. How can we set up an account like the public where you can log in, any administration person or anyone right there for the county, and see those cases? And I can also then do a training to show you how we utilize it. It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit clunky system, not the best sometimes. So you gotta learn the tricks and trades, but I'll do that. Then we'll set up a time to show you how it's used. And because everything on there, if we remove the juvenile or civil commitments, are public records. And so when you pull up those motions, even through whatever access we get you, if you want to share that to somebody else in the public, you can, because that means it's on E-Court and you're able to access it, then it's a public record. So we'll make sure whatever ones you have Because I think everything on those litigation ones, based on the filings, are public records. Not confidential, like there might be a juvenile or civil commitment, certain type of thing. So yeah, we'll put it on and I'll.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Okay, next up is our fair office quarter report is Sue.
I didn't update the agenda, I'm sorry, but we're rescheduling that for February.
So next up would be 7C, Human Resources Quarter Report. Lindsay.
Hello.
Hello.
So just some things going on in the HR world. We've had about 12 new hires this quarter and about 10 terms and 1 promotion or transfer. We have about 10 open positions currently on the website. And we actually did have a retirement, but I didn't know about it until a couple days ago. But Mike Wilson, who's a patrol deputy for the sheriff's office, did retire. So just wanted to update that verbally since my report says no retirements. As you can see, just from the normal reports I put in there, that our active employee trend is still progressively upwards. And let's see. Just an update on some major projects that we're working on. The AFSCME general contract is still unsettled. So it's been about 6 months. And yeah, just hoping to finalize that within the next couple months, hopefully. But we did, settle with the road contract. Our ERP system that we selected is kicking off. We actually have Univeris on site next week to meet with the primary users and kick off the implementation. So that's exciting. And then our classification study that we put out for proposals has closed. I think we got 11 proposals from different vendors, so that was, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. We have asked Commissioner Winholtz to help us review those proposals to make sure that the board's informed on how we go through that selection process. So we'll be doing that. We have a meeting next week to go over those proposals and evaluate those.
If you sent something out on that, if you did, I
Yeah.
missed.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So I'm not sure when I'm supposed to be next week.
okay. Yep, I can double check on that, make sure I included you.
Okay. If you did, I'm sorry I missed it.
That's okay. Does Monday work for you?
I believe so.
Okay. Our compensation board, we're about to have our compensation board. We have it every early spring, which is our volunteer board of community members that evaluate the wages and salaries for the elected officials. So we're hoping to get something scheduled the end of February to bring forward before your board in March, but we're having some scheduling issues. We have 5 very busy individuals on the board, so just need to narrow down a date. We keep having conflicts there. And we've received all of our new FTE requests for the next fiscal year. The Personnel Review Committee has been reviewing them, and I think we have one other follow-up meeting we need to have with a submitter, and then we'll be hopefully bringing those for recommendation before the board in the next month or 2. And I'm don't really have any update on the safety committee, other than I just like to keep it on the report so that the board is hearing about the safety committee and give you the opportunity to, keep it fresh in your mind and ask any questions that you need to. So do you have any questions for me about anything that's been happening in the HR world?
Well, I guess I did see where Sandy was the promotion, so I
Yes.
guess I'll steal some of Eric's, or, so I guess they'll be looking to replace her at the roads department, or?
Yes. We'll be advertising for her position shortly.
Is reviewing the job description at this time?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, Lindsay?
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you good work.
Yeah.
Okay, public works monthly report, Eric.
Now Robin was next. Robin.
I was just gonna say. If they will start with public.
No, go anywhere.
Robin Kennedy, Morrow County Public Health Director, with my quarterly report for public health. And welcome, Commissioner Peterson. Glad to have you. Anyway, I sent something out in your packet there. You can look for my report. And there's one more added. I think Valerie added it in your report, but this is on, it's really not labeled, but it's an environmental health report from our counterparts in Umatilla County. I'll get to that. So just some general updates. I have been appointed by the governor's office to the Public Health Advisory Board. So I'll represent rural Oregon on that board. And it tells there what it involves, monthly meetings, and it's a 4-year term, and I'll just keep abreast with and help with some of the decision making on moving public health forward in the state of Oregon. So I'm proud to represent Morrow County and rural Oregon in that position, and I'll keep you posted on what's going on there. So that's exciting. And we do get funding from Oregon Health Authority for tobacco prevention. So it's not a lot of funding, but we are working with Morrow County schools to try to develop a tobacco prevention program for students, which I think is really important, just to educate them early on, hopefully before they develop a habit of tobacco use, of some of the health risks. So excited about that work and collaborating with the schools. Also, we've been collaborating with the city of Boardman. In November, they asked us to join them with looking at a plan to develop and improve their city parks. So we're excited about that too. Making sure that there are spaces that people can utilize to live a healthy lifestyle. So I'm glad to be a part of that collaboration as well. And I have several folks within my staff that are OHP assisters. And so there's just a report of what they've been doing with their work to get people approved for Oregon health plans so they can have insurance. So that's been a big job for them and really good for our citizens. Something new for public health is I have been assigned to the ASA Advisory Committee. And so we had our first meeting in October. And so there's just it was just an introductory meeting to what we're going to be doing. So no decisions were made at that point, but just to let you know that our first meeting did go well, and we have another meeting planned for later this month. We'll be meeting quarterly. So everything okay? It's a loud crash.
Nothing happened.
Speak it. I don't know if Matt wanted to add anything more about the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee. And then I participate in the LCHIP, and I believe Commissioner Peterson, as one of your appointments taking over for Commissioner Drago, you'll be participating in that, as Kimberly mentioned too. It's kind of collaborating with all the health entities in Morrow County with one of your roles. And so With LTIP, we meet monthly and you're welcome to join those meetings. Actually, I would encourage you to join those meetings because it's a lot of the health. It's the first Thursday of every month we meet and we can send you a personal invite, but it's all the health entities within the county and there's a lot of good discussion and that goes on there, just preventing health disparities within our county and making sure we're thriving and the public is protected from disease and all that kind of stuff. So we are going to have a leadership forum and it's on March 6th tentatively. So I put that little save the date in there specifically for you, but the other commissioners are welcome to attend too. Just as kind of a meet and greet of all of the health entities within the county, I think it'd be a really great opportunity for them to get to know you, you to get to know them. And just do some networking. And that is scheduled to be at the Port of Morrow is where on March the 6th. So more information to come on that. Just wanted to give some updates about our school-based health center that's in Ione. You're probably familiar with that clinic. We continue to staff 5 hours of public health nursing there per week. And we just went through a site review in October, no findings for public. And then I just have some stats on some of our vaccinations, our seasonal vaccinations anyway, and these numbers have gone up because we've provided a few more since I gathered this data. But our numbers in flu and COVID are a little bit lower than they have been in years past, which is just a statewide trend. Follow on the cusp of COVID, there's some vaccine hesitancy and things, but we do our best to promote healthy individuals and that they get their flu shots and protect everybody, especially it's been kind of rough around here flu season. It hit a little bit later this year, but some people have gotten very, very sick. So and also coming up is Exclusion Day. That's in February. And so we're collaborating with Morrow County Schools just to make sure that all this, and so Exclusion Day by public health law is the day that kids can no longer attend school if their immunizations aren't up to date or they have an exemption. So it's always the third Wednesday in February. So this year it falls on February 19th, and we have all our clinics staffed that day, but we try to make sure we get we work with the schools to get people caught up prior to that day. So anyway, that's something we're working on right now. And then just to give you an update on the nitrate, what's going on with the nitrate issue in the La Guama. The governor has put out a nitrate reduction plan that came out in September. And so we're actively participating in those efforts alongside the Oregon Health Authority, DHS, and there's other agencies to educate residents about well testing and continue to provide clean drinking water. Right now it's via water delivery services, but we're also working with planning and GSI on long-term solutions, which is, down the road, but for now we are making sure people get clean water to drink. So yeah.
Been a while since we asked you about the water deliveries, so
Yeah.
used to check up on that as well. Is
Sure.
that pretty much, is that program kind of going the way it's always gone? There's no major changes in there or anything?
Yeah, there's no major changes. We have 2 companies that we work with. It's Desert Springs and Blue Mountain Water Delivery, I think. I'm not sure their exact title, but Blue Mountain Water Deliveries. Yeah. So both companies are providing the service of water deliveries, and it's going as it's been going. We, people still, there's still a few people that test like brand new tests and their nitrates are high and we have to start them out on the water delivery. So there's still those straggling in. So we add people to the list. On a monthly basis, we add a few more people to the list. And there's also some retesting efforts through OHA where people are on a tier system depending on what their original nitrate level was, how frequently we're retesting them just to kind of keep track. And those people that require retesting that tested above 10 are either have a RO system or they are already on water deliveries. So, but we do add more people.
So our assistance from the state,
Mhm.
is that funded on session on a budget, biennium budget, or?
Yeah, it's a reimbursement process and
That's
it's,
going okay, is that going the way it's supposed to?
Yeah. yeah. Yeah, and it's a biennium budget that they propose, and we've had to up the budget the last biennium, so we may have to look into increasing that again, but for now, it's working just fine.
Well, we don't,
Yeah.
right?
Right? They can help us out. Excellent.
Yeah.
We're happy to have him aboard, and yeah, we'll reach out if we need any more assistance, but it's working well. And on the OHA website, there is a link that Test My Wells link gets you there, but you can also go on the OHA website under Guama. And they keep up the monthly stuff. They're trying to get it more of a live version of the stats changing as they come on board. But for now, they update it monthly. So the last monthly update to all the statistics of what's going on in the Guama for Umatilla and Morrow, they have it separated out. And those are Morrow County statistics that are listed there. And that was as of the end of December. So they just recently changed those, and they didn't change much in the last month, but there's a few more, like, I think there's 2 more houses that are receiving water deliveries. That's how many we have just in Morrow County. So when you were asking about the water deliveries, that's how many people in the Guama are being served by the 2 companies, 296. So it's a big lift to keep track of all the invoices and file for reimbursement and all of that, but the finance department helps us out a lot, and so we're getting through it. But yeah, and that 97 is the amount of reverse osmosis systems that have been installed. So plumbers are working with us to get those installed. So that's not the county that's installing it. In the beginning, it was kind of on us to help get people filtration systems, but the plumbers have taken that job over. So yeah, it's a big lift for public health, but important that people have clean drinking water and their health is not at risk. So like I said, we are working on the drinking water roadmap project, and that's to look at more long-term solutions to getting people clean drinking water, and that's ongoing. And yeah, the testmywell.gov I've listed there for people if they need to call about their well, if they have questions or if they want to get their well tested, they're welcome to visit that website there and schedule a testing for their well. And it's the ODHS sets that up and goes out and does the well testing as well. So we've kind of worked with some partners to get some of that effort, some of those efforts off of our shoulders so they can help us out because we're pretty limited with our staffing. So. And then family planning
I'm
services.
sorry.
Oh.
On the filtration
Yeah.
systems,
Yeah,
those require maintenance, right?
yeah, and the plumbers are taking care of that.
Then I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the plumbers reach out to them as far
Oh, I
as
see.
the maintenance and replacing the filters and
Oh,
yeah. Let's see. And so moving along to family planning services, we continue to provide those services through our clinics. We contract with a provider from Morrow County Health District that does that for us, Amanda Roy, and she does a fantastic job. We just had our last family planning day yesterday and saw a few clients and continued those services. And then the Oregon Mother's Care and Home Visiting Program. A couple of quarters ago, I presented to you a contract and you approved the contract with Umatilla County to help us provide those services in Morrow County for home visiting. And that contract has been finalized by their commissioners and put into place, and they've started the services within our county. So just wanted to kind of give you an update.
So how does that get access? How do we direct people that this seems like a new thing? How do people get to the point where they know about this?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. They're welcome to call our public health office and we can get them linked it. It's a Oregon Mother's Care program. And we have numbers to get them set up with the program
Okay.
and apply, and yeah, we can help them out with that. So
So, and maybe this isn't your department, because you mentioned Umatilla County Health. And we have the contract with Umatilla County Health to do the septics. You know, if it's not your department, you can say that, but I keep getting complaints from people about they aren't very timely.
Oh.
So I don't know.
And you're right, that's not my department, but we do contract with them, and that might be more planning. I don't think that's necessarily public health, because I have listed what they do for public health, and it's more restaurant inspections and
Sure.
things like the environmental health, that side of it. So you would probably have to get a hold of Umatilla County and discuss that with them, yeah. But good to know, and yeah.
I didn't think it was you, but you mentioned.
It's not me, but yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And maybe I can do some research and find out a little bit more for you too.
Thanks.
You betcha. And then I just have a update of our communicable disease reports. That's another thing we do in public health, is track the disease cases within our county. So you can kind of look where we're at as of the end of December, so the end of the year, in comparison with last year, and then like a 5-year average. You can kind of see our numbers are increased from what they have been in the past. So we have our work cut out for us as far as prevention and educating. And you can just look over that. I don't know if you have any questions about any of those communicable diseases on there, or. No. Okay. See, and then emergency preparedness, we are monitoring, there's been talk about the activity of the bird flu. So we're kind of tracking the activity right now. There is no, the public health risk is very low. We'll continue to provide updates as necessary. And last year we partnered with the fair to make sure that people were protected, and we'll do that again this summer when the fair comes up, because that's a time when animals and people mix. And so we'll be working with the Department of Ag and the fair to make sure that all the prevention things are put in place.
So,
during
you
that time.
know, if there's been any cases of bird flu in Oregon or in Morrow County, and the reason I ask is because I've read several articles where, you know, there's been some transmission to people, but the big thing is affecting dairy herds
Yeah.
tremendously. And, you know, we do have a lot of dairy cattle in this county.
Yeah, and the Department of Ag would have the specific statistics on dairy herds. I don't have
As far
that
as you know, we
statistic.
haven't had any bird flu in the county.
Yeah, not in Morrow County, no.
Okay.
But and you're correct that that's kind of in bird farming and population and dairy cattle. And the transmission from animal to human has occurred in people working in those industries, so that have really, really close contact. So that's why there's really not a public risk at this point, but we're keeping track of it, because you know, viruses can mutate, and we don't want human to human transmission. Hasn't happened yet, and we would like to avoid that if we can. So that's what we're keep track of all that. So yeah. But not in Morrow County as we know of, but I will give you updates as I find out, as I get information. And but along the lines of outbreaks and transmissions, I did just want to put out there that Oregon has had several outbreaks of pertussis or whooping cough, not necessarily in Morrow County, but in the state of Oregon, yes. And we've gotten reports of those. And so I just listed some symptoms to be aware of there. It can be very dangerous for babies, of course. So making sure and being aware of your hygiene and your close contact with babies if you have symptoms. And it's really hard to say this is for sure whooping cough, because in the early stages, it can mimic just having your average cold. So even cold symptoms, if you have them, just be aware and protect those your loved ones and those around you. So that is really all I had to share about that. Not just pertussis, but also influenza A is also on the rise throughout the whole state. So getting in and getting your flu shots is important. And with pertussis, we have tetanus boosters that also have pertussis protection in them. So if you're due for a tetanus booster, we highly recommend if you're going to be around young children or pregnant women that you get the booster that has the pertussis protection in it. So I just got mine the other day because I was due. So yeah, it's important just to protect the public. So I don't have anything else in my report, just our standard clinic hours that are listed there, and those haven't changed. So do you have any questions for public health?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Okay, now we get the public works one.
Yeah.
Good morning, commissioners.
It's still technically morning.
Yeah, it is. Welcome, Commissioner Peterson. As Commissioner Winholz pointed out, yes, Sandy Pointer, who's our longtime Public Works Management Assistant, is transferring to the Finance Department for the Risk and Procurement Management position. So when I talked to Sandy last week, time flies, but she's been at Public Works for 20 years. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of knowledge. Thankfully, she'll still be here. We'll be able to rely on her as we train up a new management assistant. But yeah, I know that she's excited about the new position and opportunity. As far as the airport and solid waste, which she manages, I don't have anything of significance to report. We are, as I've been reporting on, we'll be starting the construction project of installing the scales at the north and the south transfer station, beginning with the north transfer station. We're going to do everything we can to avoid issues with the when they're open on the weekends, and making sure that the public can get in and get out as normal. With weeds, nothing really of significance to report. I will report next month, and I know Corey probably will as well, but it has been struggling a little bit with some the local contracts, getting applications done, as well as roadside. Our Deputy Director Rory and I both went through the process yesterday to become assistants to him, where we can help him spray if need be, just to get him caught back up. So Rory's actually out with him right now, doing some training. So if we can provide a day's help for him, is going to be really beneficial. So Rory and I are both went through that process yesterday, and we'll help him as we can until applicator position is filled. Roads, December went pretty fast. We continue to work on the Liberty School resurfacing project between the top of the hill where the Jepsons live down to Ray Creek. Continue to build width there with cut and fill operations, preparing to replace actually every single culvert on that grade. They're so old and skinny. The roads continue to get wider and wider through the decades. And that in particular, that section, we just need to replace them all. So we're working on that with road closures, and working with especially the Jepsons and others that use that grade, and getting the message out to the public when we're going to have closures for replacing culverts. Expect as long as the weather holds off as it has, I expect we'll probably be done with that portion of the project end of February, sometime in March. It's easy to look at the weather and think we're probably going to be out of it, but I always remember 2019. It did not snow till February 5th, and it did not stop till March 15th. So, and we plowed every day. So I'm always aware that our work can stop abruptly to plow roads. And speaking of that, we have had some ice. You guys all know we were under fog for a couple of weeks, and dealing with sanding grades and corners and hills and intersections, and been plowing quite a bit, obviously south county roads. up Willow Creek and Sunflower Flat especially. I've been reporting a lot the last few months on cattle guard repair. We've had a lot of cattle guards in disrepair all over the county. And we're just making efforts to tackle road by road and get some of these cattle guards pulled out that aren't being used, replace ones that are in disrepair, and repairing ones that we can. Just went through Show Canyon right up the hill here, some terrible shape with some cattle guards. Got replacements in. We're in the middle of that right now, and moving one that's just was never put in the right place and getting that done. With all the rain recently, it's slowed things down a little bit as mud can become a problem at times in spots. Fall blading, our fall blading campaign, we try to hit every gravel road in the county twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, with the exception of some mountain roads that we only work on if they become impassable. But our typical road system that we blade, we've gotten through everything. And then, as you know, I'm sure Commissioner Peterson, you know as well, there are those handful of roads that we can't just grade once a year. We have a few that are 3, 4, 5, and 6 times a year that we just can't hold up. And as reported on in the past, some of those we're looking at paving so that it just takes too much effort to keep them bladed. 2 of those, as we've been discussing, Baker Lane is one, and Morrow Lane is another that we're working on getting paved. Speaking of Baker Lane, we're waiting. At this point, all the prep work, planning is done for the widening project on Baker Lane. Everything's staked out up there. We know where we're going to cut and fill. We know where we're going to replace culverts and add some. Now we're just waiting to finish up the prep on Liberty School, and then the crew will move on to Baker Lane. So things are looking good there. That's the end of my report. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Just a comment. Mike and I talked to a new solar company, small one, just looking at there. So we were able to use our new weed fee with them. And so I appreciate when they get those figures together, so we were able to come up with that, because we told them at the get-go, that this is, and their comment was, yeah, okay, we'll work that into our figures. So I think that's gonna work out really good, is have that set amount that we tell them.
Very good. Glad that's working out.
And we're working into the pilot agreement. Yeah.
Very good. Anything further?
So I'd loved, and I actually taken it out, but last week was the MEAC meeting. I made some notes I was going to report back to you on. The one that I can remember is that the bridge over Ray Creek going up Morrow Lane made the cut, and now it will make it to the bridge committee. There was, I believe, 7 or 8. One of them didn't qualify for the program. Ours did. And then it will go to the bridge committee to get prioritized, and I did. So
I'm very excited about that.
there was something else, and I will, when I get back, I will let you know what my other notes were, but there's a couple notes I thought that you'd be interested.
Thank you. I did meet with ODOT, came out with preliminary inspection on the bridge, and very excited that they're on board with, the goal of removing the restrictions on that bridge with so many feed trucks and milk trucks up and down that hill. So thank you. Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep. Okay, that concludes our department reports. Correspondence, we've already addressed that. That's in the packet. The letter, Commissioner. Unless anybody wanted to talk about that letter, I don't want.
I just think it might be appropriate to add it to the agenda for the next meeting, that we will address the issues that have been brought up in the correspondence, so that, not necessarily that we will do action, but we will address it. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, well, under our new rules, any commissioner can put anything on the agenda, so just go ahead and go through that process, but
I'll meet with you to help.
the only thing I would request is specifically put in there what you want the board to do. You know?
Mhm.
It might be just to discuss, that's fine, but, you know, is myself, I don't know. I don't like it when things are implied, like, you know, put things on the agenda and it's assumptions. I like it spelled out there. We want
Okay.
you to do this.
You want very, very clear.
That's what I like.
Okay, okay.
So, that's
I
fine.
hear you.
Now that we all, and Matt and all three commissioners now can now put things on the agenda, so.
Okay.
But you can do it any way you want, but that's the way I prefer it.
Yeah.
That's the. Okay, so. Next up is the commission reports, Jeff. You got any?
For last Thursday was that the brand. Nothing. Super exciting, you know, they're still gonna talk about what ODOT's gonna do for funding. The gas stack keeps going down and where are they going to keep getting money from it? It's different things like that, that's on the state level. And as it said, you know, there was a couple things I took notes on that related to us. I left my sheets. Level there, you know. And there had been scheduled a CDA meeting, but yesterday the executive director sent out an email saying like, due to a lack of agenda items, the meeting will be postponed until February. Yeah. And in that, I don't know if there's anything too noteworthy to.
See, I don't have much report as far as missions, though. I'll mention couple things about Chris. And Chris been trying to put together 2 meetings. Chris 2 and Chris 3 were required to hold meetings in January with the officers. So I've been pushing everybody. It's been kind of hard during the holidays to get everybody together.
Yes.
I think we're closing in on it. And then there's disbursement of funds we're looking at, you know, we've got I think it's around 15 million. I don't have that figure. Whereas 2 to disperse, and then we also have PDP 202, I think is the number for Amazon's data center is to the point where they made the $1 contribution. So we'll have Chris 3 will have get together and decide what to do with that. And so that's a couple things with Chris. So I think that's probably about all I got to report on those. New weed policy with Eric, but that's really
All in importance.
what was that?
I don't know, so I thought it was almost sounded above, but now, sorry, I was just like.
No. Keep your antenna on. That's all I got. Yes, you got anything to report?
So just a minute, Dave. So on the CREZ stuff, so since this will be on the agenda next week. When we we'll be talking about expanding the CREZ IGA and out to the Army Depot property in the area fund. I'm in favor of all this, but it'd be helpful to how many acres do we have left available in CREZ 3 that we can designate under to have that. And it's the process that you know, as the interim CREZ manager, that's why I'm putting this on, you know, is it normally that we go out and put the designation over property? Or do we wait for an application to come in and apply it? You know, so that would be the information that I think that'd be a good for the discussion. Not that I'm in favor of doing that, but what is typically how it is operated?
It's normally, well, I mean, the port has a portion of theirs.
Yeah,
But they do a lot of development.
you know, when we've done expansion, you know, like on
Oh,
the
you
Lexington, when we expanded,
Yeah.
there was no things coming in there for at least part of it.
No,
So
that's
so
my,
again, just to have the information for our next meeting.
yeah,
That'd be great.
myself, I think it should be, have a business, tell them that could be available. Rather than, that way you can serve your GRES. You know, not really sure. Conserve your GRES. the property, I forget, I should better not quote them. But that's why I was giving you the heads up. Yeah, those numbers, yeah, no, but that's, because somebody else has asked me about that, about other property. County, well, let's just designate this as in the enterprise zone and then we'll go off. We might get some businesses in there. And I said, well, you can come to the board and ask them, but in the past, the way it's been done is wait till business. Well, the one bit, now we're still talking about, back to talking about that letter a little bit. When I read that letter, I was wondering what exactly, and there it goes back to what my last comment is. Does the BOC have any decision to make about what he's talking about? Or
I
are we
think-
just jumping into a conversation of something where we really don't have?
We could direct our representative. And it would just be a public, we are committing to this decision on this. I think that's how I understand it, but I'll put it on the agenda so that we're more clear on what it is that we would be doing if we're.
So you would like be asking the BOC to endorse what he wants.
I think that's how I understand it.
That's, well, that's what, I was wondering what you wanted.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you want to have as the objective of putting this on the agenda? Asking the BOC, that goes back to, what is it, why are we talking about it? Is it to endorse what the city of Oregon is, because we don't have direct
Correct.
control, so. I mean, is it a discussion period? That's all I'm saying, is that, let's be clear exactly what it is people are asking us, you know. If you're asking us to get behind it and endorse it to the CDA or whoever else, I want to make sure we get the whole picture there, you know, you know, I mean, Jeff gives us, he's on the CDA board, but, you know, if I'm asked to make a decision on endorsing something, I want to know what the process is, you know, and responsible and all this before I would do that. So
Yeah.
that's just, okay.
Just in preparation on that, just to address that, I'd be happy to work with Commissioner Peterson and even touch base with Commissioner Weinholz on proper process and make sure we have some actionable items that are pertinent to the BOC.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that before. Just find out what we might be called upon, you know, actionable items in this process. And it might not be any.
Yeah, there's just in a quick review of that letter again, there's some very specific ones. Other ones we might not want to jump on by the 22nd, but there's a couple others that are very actionable. So we can
Yeah, and there
get
again,
that ready.
yeah, and I'm glad you're doing that, Matt, because I want to make sure we know what we're getting into if we start endorsing or, you know, saying, okay, we're in favor of this. You know, make sure we know what the heck the issues are. Well, that's good. That'd be great. Okay, any other reports from commissioners?
Mine's very short. I don't know if necessarily this is supposed to go in commissioner reports, but my wife is 35 weeks, right?
37.
37.
Yeah, why is? This is where you don't want me to.
College and I got the hotel insurance just in case you needed to call the way.
I like to do very soon. And I intend to be here, but there is a possibility that if she's in labor at the next meeting, then that's where I will be. But I just wanted to make that clear. That's a possibility that I may be gone on short notice.
Well, that's exciting.
Yes.
Chair, should we put him on the spot and ask him if he knows, if he remembers what the due date is?
Yes, that I do know.
Okay.
But you know, right?
No, I don't know that. Even his notes too.
Is that your first one?
Yes.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
It's exciting. Yeah. Is that wait till for 15 years to see how exciting it is. Teenager in your house.
I'll report back.
That's it. Like joking, everybody's an expert raising teenagers too, you know?
Oh, yeah, and they're all different too.
They're all different. Okay. That's exciting. Okay. scratch the executive session, but I think we're kind of closing in on this. Any other thing? Any other business come for the commission?
Oh,
No? Well,
it was just the order that we discussed yesterday. I didn't know if we wanted to schedule a special
oh,
session.
yeah. Did you ask her if she needed that before the next meeting?
Oh, no, I haven't had a chance to ask her that, but it's to appoint members of Morrow County Board of Property Tax Appeals.
Yeah. Okay, so just so everybody knows, this is a request to be on the agenda. And of course, our cutoff is Friday, so, and in the past, when we've had late requests, we have held, once we held special meeting, maybe twice. Yeah, twice, we've held special meeting if it's urgent. So that's, I'm not sure if that is urgent or can be dealt with at our next DOC meeting. Or if we need to ask for a special. On two of them, or one of them, we just held a Zoom and everybody zoomed in. So it wasn't.
When did that happen? We did it before.
What's that?
When did it happen? When you did it before? Remember when it was? Like, is this gonna happen in February or is it? Wasn't sure if it's one of those things where they happen at the same time, the actual Teal hearings.
I don't know.
That might change whether it has to be today or if we can wait till the 22nd is the only thing.
You think that might have to be done today?
I don't think so. I just want to make sure since we were discussing it, I think the 22nd makes the most sense.
Probably was on.
We can confirm and find that out. We'll let you know what is the land use hearing and get that scheduled accordingly as fast as necessary.
No,
Yeah. Okay, good. Number 4.
and maybe we ought to review why we do what we do. Okay, I'm gonna do that real quick because it's important. I mean, people come to us late and say, "Oh, okay, we have a cutoff. It's what's our cutoff time? 5 p.m. Friday."
It's the Tuesday before.
So we publish the agenda Friday at 5 p.m. Internally staff, we have things submitted Tuesday.
Yes.
And so our agendas are posted Friday. So that's kind of the last, per our rules that we adopted, that's the drop dead date for that.
And the reason for this is, when we talked about this is, it's transparency. I mean, if somebody walks in on a Tuesday or late and goes, "Here, put this on the agenda," there's a good chance the public might not know about it. And so when it's Friday, then the agenda's published. So it gives exposure, so you're not adding things quickly right before a meeting. And people will say, "Hey, we didn't know anything. What are you guys doing? We didn't know anything." So that's the purpose of holding really tight, which we have, to our deadline on Friday. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay. It just gives everybody more
It has to be a
structure.
deadline at some point. That's what deadline.
Well, it has to be a deadline, but you could have it at 5 o'clock Tuesday if you wanted, but then the next morning you'd be acting this, everybody go, "Well, I didn't know anything." So, yeah,
That's right. And it's not just, there's good practice on transparency. There's also legal obligations for public notice too. And so I think that follows through with the idea of public notice. So the public's aware when they see the agenda and the packet saying, because a person might look at it and say, "Oh, well, nothing's interesting to me. I don't want to." But that's what happens when something gets added or changed quickly. So we have for the transparency, but also the legal requirement for having the public be informed what's being discussed.
Right.
And that's where there's always that caution of adding things. So I agree, with that idea of it makes sense. Someone just looks at it and says, "Oh, that should just be added on." That's not that important. Well, then you're putting a judgment call what you believe is important or not. Maybe somebody else says, "Well, no, this property tax appeal appointment, that's really important to me."
Yeah.
And so that's the topic. We can't judge what someone else thinks.
somebody has to make the call, what's important and what's not. I mean, if the word gets out that, "Oh, well, they let important things on,"
That's right.
if you go tell them, then you're gonna have everybody down here. Trust me, I ran a deadline at a newspaper for 45 minutes. At some point you gotta, Anyways, so thank you, Justin, for mentioning that legal part of it too.
Yeah.
Okay. What did we decide? Do we have to adjourn after we sign or?
No, it's, we adjourned without signing, but we have to sign within 24 hours. So things can be.
All right, any other business? Any other-
Well, there it is, Commissioner Peters. First one done.